Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Breakdown Automotive. Today we are doing a video on which used Land Rover should you buy. Now I want to point out this is mainly for the previous generation Land Rovers, including the L322 Range Rover, the L322 Range Rover Sport, the Land Rover Discovery 4 or LR4, as well as the LR2. If you're looking for something for the L405 or any newer model Land Rover, go ahead and check out the next video, which will be up here, and if it's not up there yet, that means I've not done it yet, but it should be up next week. Anyway guys, let's go ahead and jump into the video, but before we do, I just want to mention if you enjoy automotive content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and now let's jump in. Let's start off with the one behind me, which would be the L322 Range Rover. Now, I do want to point out that the Range Rover has gone from almost $100,000 new down to close to $10,000 for some models and $20,000 for a good late generation model. Now, I have a full buyer's guide specifically for the L322 that you can check up in the top right corner with the little eye, but I do want to say, even though these are the cheaper ones and they are really built for anyone at this point, they are still some of the most maintenance-hungry Land Rovers in the lineup. That pretty much means it's going to require more maintenance, more service, and more cost in order to keep it running over time, but not to worry, because if you can handle that, you'll be driving around in the best of the best. Now, I understand that the L322 has had a reputation for not being the most reliable, but I'm serious, check out the buyer's guide because it's going to give you all of the information you need to know about buying one, and it'll also give you a lot of good information about the rest of the cars as well. Now, the L322 Range Rover from this generation is probably the best on the list. It has the features you want, it has the capability you want, and it has pretty much everything that you could ever want in a Land Rover. What it doesn't have is easy service, but that's really no car on this list until we get to the last one. Next up on the list is the LR4 or the Discovery 4, depending on where you are in the world. Here in the US, it's known as the LR4. Now, the LR4 and the Discovery 4 are the same exact thing, and pretty much the Discovery has been with us for years now. We've had the D1, the D2, the LR3, the LR4, and now the D5. Land Rover has never been that good at branding, but that's okay. They're good at making some marketing material to get them sold. Nevertheless, the LR4 is pretty much the most capable one on this list. Now, I understand the Range Rover is extremely capable, but the LR4 has better approach and departure angles, which means it's better for off-roading. On top of that, the LR4 has so many more kits for it for overlanding that make it just a little bit better than the Range Rover. The Range Rover from this generation has quite a big ass, which means it's more likely to scrape on obstacles as you leave them. However, the Discovery 4 has a very small rear bumper, which means you're going to be able to clear off-road obstacles a little bit easier. Another good thing about the Discovery or LR4 is that it has 7 seats, whereas Range Rovers just have 5. I don't know why Land Rover designed their flagship vehicle to only have 5 seats, but it's how they did it, and that means if you want 7 seats, you're going to need to look at the Discovery, which is overall the better vehicle because it's better looking, more capable, and cheaper. Now let's move on to the Range Rover Sport, known as the L320 from this generation. Like I said, if you want the newer ones, check out the next video, but pretty much the previous generation Range Rover Sport was kind of a mix between the Discovery and the Range Rover, as well as it had its own sense of character. Now, the Range Rover Sport is better looking, it's better to drive, and it's a little more flashy, which kind of makes for a fun experience in the Range Rover. It's just not the flagship Range Rover L322. Another good thing about the Sport is it handles much better than the L322 Range Rover does. As much as I love the full-size Range Rover, it handles like a pig, and I hate to say it, the Sport is a better vehicle for daily use. On top of that, the Sport is a little bit cheaper than the L322 when you're looking at used prices, and a lot of the times people tend to think that the Sport looks better. The only downside though is the interior. As much as I love the Range Rover Sport's interior, it does not compare to the Range Rover full-size interior. One of the things is the Sport has a little bit less ground clearance than the full-size Range Rover and the Discovery, but that's okay. Let's be fair, most people don't use their Land Rovers to go off-road anyway, so if you just want a full-size Range Rover SUV and you don't like the looks of the L322 and you like the Sport's interior better, really there's no reason not to go for it. Overall though, the Range Rover Sport, the Discovery or LR4, and the full-size Range Rover are pretty much the same vehicles, with the Sport looking the best, the Discovery being the best off-road and the best for seating, and the full-size Range Rover for being a combination of the two. Now let's move on to the Range Rover Evoque. Now the Evoque still catches a lot of flack from enthusiasts, however let's not forget that it is still, without a doubt, the most capable vehicle in its class. On top of that, it's probably the most modern looking of the three that we've talked about so far. And on top of that, it's much more economical, it's cheaper to repair. That's not to say it's cheap to repair, it's just cheaper to repair. And on top of that, it works well in pretty much any environment. It's nowhere near as capable off-road, but like I said, not too many Land Rover owners, unfortunately, ever take their vehicles off-road. For Evoque owners, it's more of having the assurance that if it snows, it'll get you there. To sum up the Evoque though, it's small and it's a little difficult to drive because of the visibility in it. You would think such a small car would be easier to drive than the full-sized ones, but that's actually not the case with the Evoque. The rear windshield is so tiny that you really can't see anything behind you. It might as well not be there at all. And on top of that, it's also not as good as its big brothers, but that's okay because it's still a very luxurious and very good car. And if you need something that you can drive around the city in and then take it up a mountain, the Range Rover Evoque is perfect. And last but not least is a Land Rover that people often forget about, and for good reasons. It's a little boring, but it's actually one of my favorites. The Land Rover Lr2 was with us for quite a while in the Freelander format, from the Freelander to the Lr2, but it's different. Most everything on this list has some type of air suspension, but the Lr2 doesn't, and that's actually one of the things I like most about it. If you're looking for a used Land Rover, odds are you're on a bit of a budget, and that's okay, most people are. The thing is though, the Lr2 requires less maintenance, upkeep, and repairs than the rest of the Land Rover family because it has less parts. One of the good things about the Lr2 is that it actually doesn't have air suspension, and air suspension has a 100% fail rate, which means your suspension in the Lr2's it's going to be fine. It also copes with bumps really well, and in fact it's one of my favorite driving experiences. I drove one about a year ago, and still to this day it's my favorite driving Land Rover because it's so much fun to thrash over bumps. You don't feel like you're going to blow one of the airbags in the suspension or cause the compressor to leak or any of the lines to leak because you don't have to worry about it. So that is actually one of the biggest benefits to the Lr2, and on top of that, it's still extremely capable and it's extremely utilitarian. So overall, it's probably the one you should buy. And I know it's weird to recommend the baby Land Rover Lr2 to people who are looking for a used Land Rover, but if you're one of those people who just wants the Land Rover badge, the Lr2 is the perfect way to go because you're going to save a lot of money on insurance, a lot of money on gas, and a lot of money on repairs. So anyway guys, thanks for watching this video on which used Land Rover should you buy. If you want the updated list for the new models, go ahead and check out the next video. But anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications like it's Instagram in 2013. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.